When you wander through Warwickshire's glorious countryside today, it's hard to believe that once it was not land, but sea. It was in fact the sea which laid the foundations for one of the area's main industries of today, cement. It all happened some 200 million years ago, during the dinosaur era. The continents have moved over time, and Warwickshire was then rather nearer the equator. As lime particles from billions of tiny shellfish built up on the seabed, so they gradually created deposits of limestone, interspersed with layers of muddy clay. Some of the creatures of the time remain as fossils in today's quarries. By Roman times, man was starting to build in earnest and needed something to bond stones together. By medieval times, he also needed lime to sweeten the soil and fertilize his fields. It was then that he began to dig out the blue lias limestone laid down all those millions of years before. By burning it and then crushing the resulting lumps, he could produce a rather useful powder known as quicklime. With sand and water added, quicklime created an early form of mortar used to cement stones together. Until the mid-1700s, lime production was a small-scale industry in Warwickshire, but with the coming of the canals and the availability of cheap local coal as a fuel, it quickly expanded. It was an important driver for the Industrial Revolution. Warwickshire's geological mix of limestone and clay made it ideal for lime production on a large scale. The process was gradually perfected, and soon the local works were producing a much stronger material, which became known as cement, and industry was born. Fast forward to today's world, and the cement industry in Warwickshire has undergone dramatic further change. Now there is just one large factory, in Rugby. It is, however, one of the most modern plants in the world. The Rugby cement plant is operated by Cemex, a company which celebrated its 100th birthday in 2006. Cemex's own story started in Mexico in 1906. It began expanding internationally in the 1990s, and has now established itself as a world leader, operating in 50 countries and employing more than 50,000 people. At its Rugby plant today, the chemistry is highly sophisticated, but the original limestone and clay mix remains fundamental. Today, lime comes from a chalk quarry near Dunstable in Bedfordshire, but the clay still comes from the blue lias beds in nearby Southam. Where the Rugby area once had dozens of small kilns in which lime and cement were made, the mix is now heated in one very large kiln which rotates 24 hours a day and generates temperatures at which steel would melt. The technology has come a long way from the old static lime kilns of the late 18th century. At that time, the raw materials were loaded by men, and sometimes women, with shovels, and the limestone was interspersed with layers of locally produced coal. Once loaded, they set fire to the coal and let it smoulder for days at a time, steadily heating the stone. Then they dug it all out again and crushed the lumps of stone using grinding stones. This map gives you an idea of the sheer number of small lime and cement works in the area, though these weren't all in operation at any one time. The end product then needed to be delivered from the Rugby area to the emerging cities of the Midlands and to London. And that's where the growing canal network came into its own. Completed in 1773, the Oxford Canal ran right through Rugby to Birmingham. Later came the Warwick to Knapton Canal, which was completed in 1799. Lime production was typically adjacent to the canals. In some cases, more important works constructed their own arms, leading from the canal to the works itself. But as lime gave way to cement in the 1800s, so too were canals replaced by railways as the favoured transport medium. Once again, Rugby found itself at the heart of the network, as a stop on the first main trunk rail line from London to Birmingham, which opened in 1838. The railways enabled the cement industry to expand quickly. With increasing demands for fuel and transport, the cement works that prospered were those located adjacent to the railways. The production process in this period was constantly being improved with new and better kilns, and better ways of mixing raw materials and crushing the burnt stone. Increasing sophistication was also evident in the working of the quarries. In the early 1900s came the first continuous rotary kilns. As the century unfolded further, so the various works in Warwickshire each played its part in building the wealth of the area. And with each works or company went its own particular brand of cement, including Rugby cement. Lorries too went through several stages of development to arrive at today's tankers and flatbed delivery vehicles. Loading, whether bulk or bags, is now a highly automated process. Going back to our old lime kilns, it's interesting to look a bit more closely at the fuel. While there is no longer any coal produced in Warwickshire itself, traditional fossil fuels still have their place in the modern industry. It takes a lot of energy to heat a cement kiln, and over the past 20 years, the cement industry has started to reduce the amount of coal it uses and increase the use of alternatives, such as tyres and household waste. Alternative fuels are more sustainable and better for the environment. Rugby Works has trialled chipped tyres and wishes to trial household refuse that has been processed and is called climber fuel. Using climber fuel would help to remove one of today's great problems by reducing the amount of waste we otherwise bury in landfills. But in an industry that has changed so greatly over time, there is one constant. Cement and lime making has always been a people business, heavily reliant on the skills and hard work of its employees. And that is as true today as it has ever been. Since its inception, the industry has provided employment for many generations. Even in today's automated age, Rugby Works still creates some 730 local jobs, of which more than 180 are at Rugby Works itself. Leadership is vital and always has been. If you look back over time, you find not just individuals, but complete families who pioneered the industry in Warwickshire. Another major influence was Sir Halford Reddish, an accountant who was persuaded to join the board of Rugby Cement in 1929. Sir Halford led the company out of trouble and into an age of expansion, which took the name of Rugby not just across the UK, but around the world, from Trinidad to Australia. When Reddish joined, he found himself in control of an out-of-date, single-work cement company. He immediately began a process of modernisation and expansion that continued until the 1970s, driving up Rugby Cement's share of the UK market. Rugby Cement Works entered yet another era in 2000, when its new high-tech kiln was commissioned. Then, in 2005, came the takeover which brought the plant into Cemex's ownership. In its long history in Warwickshire, the cement industry has undergone dramatic change. But while other industries have come and gone, its role remains as significant as ever.